Hello and welcome to another tutorial on the Universe training series from Junkies. In this tutorial, we'll learn how to create a nice alien tentacle jungle like this. It actually moves very organically, but of course it takes a long while to render. Okay, so you better get started because it's gonna be a tough one, and click on File, New to create a new project. And we'll get started making the first tentacle. So we'll come to the primitives and select a capsule. So we have a nice capsule, and I'll come to the rotation tool, hold shift and just rotate it 90 degrees so it faces us nicely. And then I'll click on the orange dot and just make it large, like so, like a tentacle. And just position it in a way you can see it well. And okay, we have our basic tentacle structure, but we need to make several adjustments. The first is a hypernerves, and we just apply the hypernerves and then drag the capsule inside the hypernerves. Great. And we can actually start making the movement, the wind movement. So we'll come here on the transform tools. We have those all options, but we'll click on wind. And you might be wondering why wind, but yes, wind will actually make the movement of the organic movement from the snake. Now, can we drag it inside? Can we just leave it here because we don't see any effect? Well, the correct way is to group them both by holding shift, Apple, click, and grouping objects. So now you can immediately see that once they're in the same group, the wind is only affecting the tentacle, like so. And it does render very slow because it's complicated to calculate all the movement. The movement, by the way, we can just change here. So I'll just click on the wind and come to the amplitude settings, and I'll just set it to 200. And now you see things are moving incredibly fast. Now you can also change the orange dots here. When you bring them together, it's less amplitude, and the farthest they're apart from each other, the more amplitude you increase. And it pretty much depends on what you want. We'll set it to 50, looks okay. The size we'll set it to 600, but now you see something different happening. If you set the size to 600 or a big number, the wind will be affecting a greater area, so it won't be very concentrating. So we want a concentrated wind, so if we increase the size, we also have to increase the amplitude. And I'll just set it to 200 so it looks a little better. Still not a lot, so you can just increase it here, and maybe just decrease the size to 400. So now you have a more alright tentacle. Cool. We'll also set the frames here to 120, just so our animation is a little bit bigger. And then I'll just drag the timeline here so I can see the whole frames. Now it's kind of moving to here and not too much here. So to change that, just increase the amplitude a little bit, and maybe in the capsule settings you'll see the transparent capsule here. You can just increase it or decrease it, and increase it here too, to make it fat or thinner depending on what you want, just so it moves more. And we have the basic tentacle, so I'll just hit enter and call this tentacle, or even better, single tentacle. And now we can actually create the material to texture it. So I'll just come to File, New Material, and we have the blank material. And this might be the most extensive material we're gonna make in this series, or one of the most. I'll just double click on it, and we'll start with the color. So I'll set the color to green, because you know aliens are green according to us, and a darker green like this. That looks perfect. 0, 130, 0 precisely. So now we have a pure kind of green, not pure but nice enough. And now we come to the diffusion option and you check it and you see no effect. Diffusion pretty much means like a second material fused in this material. So to understand better, we'll just come to this texture here, click on the little arrow and come to the pre-made surfaces, and then we'll choose rust. So now you can see that you have two different materials in only one. So I'll just close it and apply it to the tentacle. And now if I click on Apple R, you can see you have something really nice. Two textures in one. That's what diffusion is for. Now, I also want to apply a glow to it. So just check it and apply the outer strength to 900 and the inner strength to 0. Now, the reason I'm setting the inner strength to 0 is, we'll come here to the alpha and check it. And when you do it, we'll come to the texture, so you click to alpha, and then you click to the texture and set the Fresnel. So now what just happened is, the white part that is here in the middle is transparent because of the alpha, and only the black part can be seen. So you can see that you can actually crush the white just so you have more alpha or less alpha as needed. So right now that's the material we have. It looks really interesting and very alien-like. The last thing we probably want to do is come to the bump, check it, and then come to the texture. And there are a couple of good ones, but you can come to surface and decide to, I don't know, Starfield for instance, just to create some grain and set the strength to 40. So it won't be very noticeable because we don't have a lot of actual material, but it will look cool. And if you want a reflection with brightness of 50, there's not a lot to reflect, so I wouldn't worry. Okay, so you can see some grain here, but not here. And that's the cool thing about the material. Very different depending on the spot you want to look. But I'll actually uncheck bumpiness just for the render, because it takes twice more to render. And the reflection as well. So now I have our single tentacle, and I'll just push it here to the side, and I'll just click on Apple C, Apple V to copy and paste, and start making several instances of it, and rotate it and move to the side. Let your creativity flow. Let's just group all the single tentacles and group them together again. Just saying group of tentacles. So now just Control C, Control V, and I'll just push them back. And then Control C, Control V again, and push them back even a little more. And rotate them a little bit. So now I can actually group them together and call it Ocean of Tentacles. And you can see we have lots of groups here. So you could duplicate the Ocean of Tentacles, but your computer is probably gonna get a little bit laggy. Mine's already getting a little bit. So I'll just click on Apple R to render this scene. So here we have our awesome tentacle scene we've just created. The movement with the wind is also amazing. but it's a shame that my computer is not that good so I can actually show. But go ahead and check out the rendering tutorial to see how to compress it so it won't take too much. And yes, experiment and make cool renders like this. I'll see you in the next tutorial of the universe.